What's good, guys? We're doing a Naruto reaction today. You guys know the vibes. We love some motherfucking Naruto. And we're checking out Weeaboo Warrior. If you guys don't know who he is, definitely check him out. He's a good guy. He does tons and tons of tier list videos. So if you guys are a big fan of tier list videos and love that type of stuff, this is definitely going to be your guy, because that is literally what he does. He has all kinds of videos, all kinds of topics. Basically anything you can think of, he has a tier list for, right? Anything you could really think of. So, and obviously if he hasn't done it yet, then maybe, I don't know, comment or ask for it, and you'd be surprised. He might give you what you want. So, but yeah, either way, really cool dude. I've actually spoken to him a couple times here and there. He's actually on my Discord as well. He's one of my mods. But he's a cool dude, but he's doing his thing, and he has 38,000 subs. It's fantastic. And yeah, and definitely give him all the love and support if you guys fuck with him. So, but anyways, we're gonna get into his video, and this is him doing a tier list for all the tailed beasts in Jinchuriki, which is really cool. Now, I'm not gonna sit here and act like I have perfect fucking recollection of knowledge and how everything is in Naruto. And there's a certain points in Naruto where it's just too contentious or ambiguous to really, definitively say what is what, right? There's only so much you can really do in the line of scaling for Naruto. But for the most part, it's pretty straightforward, right? And unless I do all my homework and all my diligence on my end to really study all the information that's available within Naruto, because there is a lot, okay? Anime and manga, because I do consider the anime adaptation heavily as a valid source of evidence into consideration too, not just only the manga. Obviously the manga will be priority, but the evidence is useful as well. But either way, so unless I were to go that route, then I could then really have my verdict on stuff and the whole nine. But I'm just going to go off my memory and my recollection of things and so on and so forth. And because I do know the material pretty freaking well, and I've read it multiple times and seen the anime multiple times. So it's not like I'm, bad, or like I know it pretty freaking good, but I'm just saying, because I'm not doing my homework or doing a video on this myself, I'm not going to sit here like I'm just, the almighty God, or I just know it all. And I'm going to be real, which I don't think anybody does, right? But most importantly, again, like, unless I were to do that, then I could really have a really strong basis for what I'm advocating, whether if it's against or agreeing with him. So just putting that out there. But again, shout out to him. I'll either put his name in the title or in the description down below. You guys can check him out. And I'm going to be real with you. Shout out and W to his wallpaper back. Bro, we all see it. We all see that. We see them boobies. We see that. Damn. God damn. All right, but anyways, we're going to get into it. We're going to see this goofball. Let's get it.
Weeaboos to another Naruto strength ranking video. I already made the most accurate and complete Naruto strength ranking of all.
You guys can talk all the shit you want or fuck with it, but I'm going to be real with you. W.
Time. So if you haven't seen that already, I recommend checking it out. But it was so huge that I couldn't fit quite everything in that one video. I mentioned the tailed beasts in the Jinchuriki in that video, but I didn't go into detail due to their lack of showings in the manga. This video will be going more in-depth on how strong I think they are, even using some anime...
Yeah, if you cover the anime, you get more information. Which, again, that's why I strongly advocate and suggest for anybody that's scaling Naruto, there's nothing wrong using anime. The anime is definitely canon. I don't know, all the weirdos out there that say it's not, it is. Okay, there's many ways to advocate and prove that. And it's literally stated all around, too, that the anime, like, there's all kinds of shit, but people are just weird with that. I don't know. But even if that wasn't the case, and let's say, like, there wasn't all the ways in the world to prove that it is, considered a valid source of information, evidence, or canon, right? At the end of the day, it'd just be equal interpretation at that point, right? Where it could be or not, and because it is there, why not use it, right? Like, I don't see no harm, no foul, right? Like, I don't even understand why people even take it that serious to the point where, like, oh no, it must only be manga. It's like, that's stupid. Like, if there's anything more with it, you should be cool with that, right? Like, if you love Naruto, right, then what's the problem? That's just more statements or feats, right? But anyways, yeah, check out the anime. You get way more information and details compared to the manga, guys. Way more.
Scenes to go into even more detail. I'll explain how I think they stack up against the other characters in Naruto, and how I think they compare to each other as well. Kurama seemed to think the tailed beasts are ranked in power by the amount of tails they have, but 8 Tails seemed to disagree with that, so I'm not quite sure if the rankings are really that simple. I'll start by going through each tailed beast.
So that's really easy actually to analyze. So if you've read it and seen the anime multiple times, whatever, so basically, okay, like, it's kind of like they're both right and wrong type scenario, but inherently or overall for being like factual and based upon the feats and all the other statements, the Nine Tails is correct though. So the Nine Tails is not wrong in that. The reason why B gets all butthurt, whatever, blah, blah, and says like that once, or not B, but the Eight Tails, is because he's trying to be respectful and consider if the other tail beasts' power and their feelings. And it's basically like the situation where it's like, oh, like, you know, it's kind of similar like where you, this is actually a funny one, like an Iroh aspect where you got, you know, a chick or a dude and they're like, oh, I'm a 10, I'm perfect, right? Like I look like goddamn, you know, Zac Efron in this bitch, right? I'm super good looking, whatever, about the whole nine. But yet you look like the fucking sloth from Goonies and you're a flat one, right? It's basically instead of accepting reality, right? You know, instead you're trying to sugarcoat or make the other person feel validated or feel great, whatever, about the whole nine and be morally, you know, good, right? You know, to the person. And that's basically what this situation is. That's really what it is. Because at the end of the day, yeah, like you do have two statements, so it's like, wait a minute, it's kind of contradicting, right? You know? But when you really analyze it as a whole and look at the whole context and all the feats, whatever, it is blatantly clear as day that the Nine Tails is the strongest, along with the Eight Tails falling in second place. Clear as fucking day. Like, there's so much evidence to support that. So.
Jinchuriki from One Tails up. When Part 1 Gaara was in control of the One Tails Shukaku, he seemed to be below Gamabunta, as he got his arm lopped right off. But after Gaara used playing Possum Jutsu and Shukaku gained control, he was able to use his full power and was clearly above Gamabunta at that point.
Marvel Studios' Thunderbolts, one of the best Marvel movies of all time, has critics cheering.
We know Gaara's father, Rasa, was able to subdue Shukaku with his Golden Sand, but it was stated that the Golden Sand countered Shukaku's, so it's questionable if he should really be below Rasa, who I had in the low Kage tier. In the War Arc, Shukaku was able to damage and almost seal Blind Sage Mode Madara with the help of Gaara and force him to use his Susanoo. He was able to block a Susanoo attack as well and implied his specialty is his defensive powers. That same Susanoo attack knocked War Arc Gaara back, but he should have been pretty tired by that point in the war. Yugito in base was faster than Hidan, and as an Edo, she was able to clash with and push back Killer B. As Edos, the Jinchuriki should normally be slightly weaker than their living versions, but they were being fed chakra by Obito through Chakra Rod, similar to what Nagato did with the Paths of Pain, and were able to use the precognition abilities of the Sharingan.
Wow, someone that's not like, I'm not saying he doesn't scale Naruto or know it, but he doesn't specialize in only scaling Naruto. But it's insane that Weeaboo literally just said the most logical, most intelligent, fucking comprehensive statement to ever make for Naruto. Because for whatever reason, like the majority of the Naruto community understand this very easily, right? But then you have like the rare 5% of the Naruto community, or 1% really, if I'm being honest, okay? To where this is how they try to advocate the whole Kakasu is KCM bullshit and the whole nine, all this nonsense, where they'll literally have the audacity to say that Obito is not amping them with the rods. Like, and just being completely a dunce, not understanding how chakra works and etc. And not just, you know, remembering all the fucking times Nagato was literally amplifying the passive pains with chakra rods and shit and the whole nine, you know. So shout out to Weeaboo fucking being spot on with that. So basically what he was getting at is like, yeah, it has like a slight nerf, whatever, you know, blah, blah, but also to take into consideration that, you know, they are way, way more better technically than their live variant, because not only is their aqua powers are enhancing their abilities and shit in like a really good combination, but Nagato's also, Obito's also putting his chakra into them, whatever, etc., which in theory you could argue to make them even stronger or perform better than what they typically could do when they were alive, right? So that's basically what you're working with.
On and the visual link of the Renegon. This is important to note because Sasuke unlocking the second Tomoe in his Sharingan allowed him to track Haku when before he couldn't. And unlocking the third Tomoe allowed him to react to Naruto using Kurama Chakra when before that he was getting completely blitzed. So each Tomoe seems to allow you to move up a reaction speed tier. And the Jinchuriki went from having no Sharingan at all to having 3 Tomoe Sharingan. The Renegon Link actually gives a similar boost, as the Animal Path was able to block an almost point-blank attack from Sage Mode Jiraiya's fastest move due to it, but when it was a one-on-one fight, Sage Jiraiya was able to blitz the Animal Path from a similar distance with just basic taijutsu. So based off all this, you could try and argue that Edo Jinchuriki's reaction speed should be 4 speed tiers above normal. But even if you don't want to look that far into it, A-Tails confirmed the ocular jutsus were amplifying their Jinchuriki abilities, so they were undoubtedly better than before. Edo Yugito with one tail clashed with Killer B again, managing to slash his scarf. But B was carrying an injured Naruto and landed what would likely have been a fatal blow if not for her being an Edo. So Edo Yukito should definitely be below Killer B.
Yep.
Her, along with all the other Edo Jinchuriki, were about to get sealed by B.
Which is insane that B did that, because this B is not at full power. He's technically nerfed, okay? While that bitch is, okay? And she has a running gun and a shotting gun and being amplified by Obito. Yet Killer B was still able to beat her. That's fucking crazy.
So that's more proof that even in the one-tailed mode, they're all below B. In their version 2 cloak states, they all broke out of that sealing jutsu and swarmed and hurt Kurama Cloak Naruto and full beast mode Killer B. They had a numbers advantage, but their speed and power had to be at least somewhat relative to dodge and hurt B and Naruto. In full-tailed beast state, Yukito overpowered Kakuzu with a paw swipe and had Hidan ducking for cover with her fireball. She seemingly gave them a good fight considering the battlefield is vastly damaged, but she somehow lost off screen. Likely due to Hidan's ability since he was just in skeleton mode, which he only goes into when he gets someone's blood and applies his curse to them. This means Hidan and Kakuzu somehow drew blood from her, which is impressive. But as long as they did, it means they didn't necessarily have the firepower to kill her, since as long as they made her bleed a little bit, Hidan could have just licked her blood and then stabbed himself to finish the job.
Yeah.
It's worth noting Yukito went to Turtle Island and trained to access her tailed beast chakra like Naruto and B did, but she wasn't stated to be one of the Jinchuriki to have access to the full power of their tailed beast by Danzo. Yagura was the previous three-tailed Jinchuriki and the fourth Mizukage. In base, he clashed with Juzo, a former member of the Seven Ninja Swordsmen turned Akatsuki member, who would likely have been high Jonin tier similar to Zabuza and Hidan. Their scuffle was quickly put to a halt by Itachi's fireball jutsu, and Yagura transformed into his version 2 cloak state. In this form, he easily pushed back Juzo and had the power to make coral grow on his enemies, which he used to get the better of Itachi and Kurama Cloak Naruto. Juzo managed to partially block his beast bomb, but got killed from the blast. Itachi unlocked Amaterasu and used it for the first time to defeat him. Due to his performance, his version 2 state should at bare minimum be low Kage tier, but could easily be mid Kage tier due to how Itachi needed help and had to use Amaterasu. In his Edo version, he showed the ability to use a jutsu that reflected back Killer B.
I'm not going to say any for because it's mainly just about the tail beast and stuff, but I'm not going to lie, call Itachi mid Kage. Look, it's kind of crazy.
His attack with equal power. But with his eyes amping his reaction speed like I previously mentioned, it's questionable if he could pull this off on characters this fast while in his living state. Even if he could, the strongest person I think he would likely beat with this move is the third Raikage, as this would perfectly counter his one-finger spear. But the problem is the Raikage doesn't usually start with that move. He starts with 4 fingers, and that move likely won't kill him if reflected. So if he gets hit by Kagura's reflection move, he'll then know not to use his one-finger spear. And since he has better stamina feats, being able to stalemate the 8 tails and last 3 days and nights against 10,000 shinobi, he should easily outlast Kagura.
Oh yeah.
If he doesn't slaughter him with his greater speed and power beforehand. So I do not think Kagura belongs above the third Raikage, or anyone in my high Kage tier. Yagura was also stated to be one of the few Jinchuriki to have full control over their tailed beast. However, it's unlikely he was a perfect Jinchuriki, as he was kept under Obito's Genjutsu for years. So either Obito's Genjutsu was just that powerful, or the Three Tails was not friends with Yagura and didn't feel like breaking him out.
Yeah.
The Three Tails without a host struggled against the filler character Gurren, who had a Crystal Kekkei. She was actually pretty strong, getting the better of Kabuto and Part 2 Kakashi, as well as creating a kilometer-wide crystal barrier that Yamato couldn't break through. So it's likely she would be near the bottom of my low Kage tier. In this filler arc, the Three Tails also created a mist that could cause illusions, and had some sort of space jutsu it could retreat into and send people it swallows to. It had its jutsu overpowered by a combo from base Naruto, Gamakichi, and Gamatatsu, which is pretty embarrassing. The Three Tails was later defeated by Deidara and Obito without much trouble. But Obito was still pretending to be Tobi at the time, and it was likely mostly Deidara who did the heavy lifting, as he said himself. Deidara did note that the Three Tails was weaker for not having a host, since it didn't have the intelligence to control its power, but I find this statement weird considering tailed beasts have human-level intelligence. I think a better explanation would probably be that they aren't trained to control their chakra like ninjas are, so a Jinchuriki can help them with their chakra control and battle strategy. Roshi lost to Kasame, but Kasame counters Jinchuriki due to his chakra absorption power. His water style doubly counters Roshi's lava style, and he researched his weaknesses beforehand. His Scorching Rocks jutsu was blocked by Kasame, and dodged by Kurama Cloak Naruto and B. Even with his one-tailed lava cloak form, Roshi still lost pretty badly to Kasame, so I would definitely put him below Kasame by a good deal. It's hard to say if he should be a full tier down due to all of the advantages Kasame had. In his lava cloak, his heat was enough to hurt Kurama Cloak Naruto even when just passing by him, but Naruto did manage to dodge him, catch his punch and tough out the heat, and was about to win with his first attack if Han didn't jump in. This at bare minimum puts him a tier below Chroma Cloak Naruto, which lines up with Kisame being near the top of the tier below that version of Naruto. In his version 2 state, he hurt a full 8-tailed killer bee a bit, and in Full Tail Beast mode he tossed him around and made Chroma Cloak Naruto struggle with his bite force. This could arguably put him in my high Kage tier, but B was already injured and dealing with multiple other Jinchuriki, and ended up tying him up with his tails, and Chroma Cloak Naruto had the strength to stop his hand from closing and outspeed him. So I would put the full 4 tails below Chroma Cloak Naruto and B, possibly in the same tier, possibly near the top of the tier below. Han is stated to have taijutsu with some of the highest speed and power in the ninja world.
Yeah, no, they're definitely above, because again, that B and Naruto were not at full power, so.
Cloak Naruto. And Sucker kicked him really badly in his one-tailed state. He doesn't have any other showings, but he got stomped by full-tailed Beast Mode B like the other Jinchuriki.
Yep.
So he should at least be a tier below B. When the full 5 tails was released, it was able to stab full 8-tailed Killer B with its horns and knock him back. But it did this while B was already injured and distracted, and was later knocked aside by B when he actually saw it coming. So like the 4 tails...
you know, it's like context is a really big thing. Like, I love how he actually goes over the context, you know, before just immediately jumping to conclusions or trying to, like, be a sophist or rat with shit, you know? Like, I love integrity, you know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, see, the thing with Weeaboo, it's either, if he's wrong potentially, it'll just simply be incompetence, or he's going to be right 9 out of 10 times. Because he actually, like, tries his very best to analyze it all as a whole and not just... you know what I mean, dismiss or, again, disregard context, right? You know, and so on and so forth. Or when things are just either very contentious or questionable, right? You know, and in question. So, W comprehension value that he has on the thing. Really good job Weeaboo does. So.
The 5 tails is at best lower down in the same tier as B, but could possibly be around the top of the tier below as well.
I'm going to be with you. I don't really care for all the ninja stuff that he's doing right now. I was mainly just curious with... I thought it was going to be like the Tail Beast against each other. You know, but he's kind of putting them out against all the ninja and stuff. So that's a little interesting. But yeah, I don't really care that much. Like, I'm going to be real with you. When it comes to all the Tail Beast and stuff, like, you know, it's interesting to put him against like all the ninja of the Narutoverse, you know, but there's certain points where, like, for a certain amount of Tail Beasts where it's very ambiguous with their scaling. That's kind of the fucking problem, you know? And the main reason why is because really the only time where you see all of them is in the war, right? And it's like, it's still hard to determine what they're fully capable of because Obito was controlling them with the rods, you know what I mean? And in theory, he can amplify their power if he wants to, you know what I mean? Or he's just letting them use their own power, but controlling their movements and stuff, right? You know, things like that. So, again, it's really weird. Like, there's not really a concrete or definitive way to really know what they're capable of. But at the end of the day, it's all you really have. So that's only so much you can go off, right? You know? So, but all I will say is it is interesting, you know? For the most part, all the Tail Beasts and whatnot, like, obviously from, like, 1, 2, and 3, I feel like are way, way more straightforward to figure out. But once it gets to, like, that 4 tails and up, that's where it gets really interesting, you know? Really, really interesting and stuff like that. So, I don't know, it's interesting. But, like, at the end of the day, all I will say is obviously, like, for simplicity reasons, and I'll let the video go out, is if we're doing all the Tail Beasts together, it's, again, just from 9 to all the way down, right? Very straightforward. The only time it ever really gets contentious is, like, once it hits, like, that 3 tails point, where maybe you could argue, like, the Tail Beasts, like, from 1 to 3, like, they're all within the same amount of power, but it really just boils down to, like, their abilities and whatnot, and so on and so forth, you know? But, like, once you kind of hit, like, that 5th tail mark or 4th tail, whatever, we don't know necessarily, but once you, like, get more higher, it's very, like, apparent for the power based upon the chakra difference, right? The more tails, the more power and chakra, etc., you know? So, that's really all it is. And again, you see that with the 8 tails, you see it with the 9 tails, and you definitely see that with the 10 tails, where how the 10 tails, not even having the 8 tails and 9 tails, just a portion of a little bit of their chakra, and only having all 7 was way more fucking powerful than the 8 and 9 tails combined, you know? And that's insane. So again, like, the more tails you have, the more powerful you are inherently. So, like, overall, like, it's interesting, but if you just want to be on the safe side of things, again, just rank it from 1 tail all the way to 9, right? Very simple. And it could be potentially very contentious between, like, the 1 to 3 tails or 1 to 4, right? And that's kind of what to work with. As for all the other ninja, I'm just gonna be completely honest with you. If it's any of the high Kage ninjas, whether if it's like Itachi, Minato, you know, Casey Naruto, Seiji Naruto, things like that, anyone that's within that range, like they're beating all the fucking tail beasts. Like, I'm sorry, but they're gonna win, right? If it's anyone that's mid Kage, that's where I'm like, I don't know if you're gonna win. You would have to have like some crazy hacks to pull it off. Like for like Sasuke, he would only win because he has a Mataratsu, right? I mean, if he didn't have a Mataratsu or his Genjutsu or anything like or some crazy hacks, then he would just lose because he can't brawl with the tail beast, right? Like he can't do shit, right? You know, so there's that, right? So like unless you have crazy hacks, then you're technically an exception. But like other than that, like bro, I'm sorry, but like the Sonic, their limits was V2 Ninetales. Now to be fair, that is Ninetales though, not all the other tail beasts, right? So maybe the Ninetales is the only V2 like tail beast that can like just defeat a Sonic basically, right? And like all the other tail beasts, like I'd say 7, 8, and 9 is probably what like would destroy the Sonic in V2. But once it's like 6 and under, maybe the Sonic can like beat that, right? You know, and things like that, you know. Or if the Sonic are all superior to everything except for the 8 or 9, right, bare minimum, then you could basically just come to the conclusion that like when it comes to the full transformation, like they're not doing shit, right? You know, and things like that, like they're probably fucked or whatever. But it's again it's when you get to the mid Kage range, that's when it's like really contentious. It's really hard. All I will say, if it is to Sonic, like Tsunade, she's fucked. I don't want to hear it. Orochimaru, I could see him winning if he like somehow like summons the right Edo to subdue it, you know, or if he does like some ceiling hacks jutsu or whatever. If it's Jiraiya, he has many ways to deal with it, like either a frog eating it or him doing like the mud swamp or things like that, whatever, right? Or especially if he's in sage mode, like he probably would be okay, and so on and so forth. So like, you know, it really just depends. But like I'll say this, actually now remembering, we actually do know the Sonic cap. So Jiraiya, he was against the 4 and 5 tails, and they literally were in their full tail beast transformation, and they were about to shoot a BIJU bomb, and Jiraiya was cooked. He couldn't do shit. Like, he was fucked. You know what I mean? Now, to be fair, we don't really have all the context. You know, it's very vague what was occurring. Like maybe Jiraiya was already gassed out at that point in nerf, you know. We don't really know everything, but what we do know objectively is that he couldn't beat that, and Minato used Flying Raijin to save all of them. So if we at least go off that, you know, then maybe that means the Sonic like can't beat a full tail beast transformation like once it's 4 and up, right? So, and there you go. And that makes sense, you know, in a way. But, you know, it is what it is. But that's basically you have. Obviously, if anyone's low Kage, they all die. I don't want to hear it. Like, the only low Kage ninjas or tail beasts that they're beating is going to be, like, you know, what Data would be, right? Because Data is a low Kage. He's not mid Kage. He's low Kage. He's basically, like, you saw the battle he had against Kakashi and stuff, and you see the life and death battle he has against Sasuke and things like that. And those people are not Sonic level at that point in time. They're not mid Kage or anything like that. So like we know what like clearly where they're at, and same thing with Kakasu and Hidan. Like they're not mid Kage or Sonic tier, things like that, etc. That's why they were only able to defeat the Two Tails, and that's why they were sent after the Two Tails, you know, and things like that. So like if it's like the Akatsuki members within that range, or anyone that's at least low Kage level, like, you know, again, then yeah, they could beat like the tail beast from 1 to 3, right? But other than that, once it gets to that 4th mark, then no, they're not doing shit. So that's basically I have what in general consensus for, at least when it comes to comparing all the ninja to the tail beasts, you know. But anyways, enough of me talking. Get to the video, let him finish it.
Utakata in a filler was able to defeat a bunch of ninja chasing him and deal with the base Naruto attacking him. He did get injured by the ninja chasing him and ran out of chakra, had trouble with some more loser filler shinobi, got overpowered by multiple missed Anbu members, and needed to use his tailed beast chakra to break out of the filler enemy leader Shiranami's jutsu, so I wouldn't put his base form at more than mid to high Jonin tier at that time. As an Edo, he was able to slightly hurt Kurama Cloak Naruto, but he only landed a hit while Naruto was already being knocked back by Yagura's attack. In one-tailed mode, he didn't really do anything, and in his version 2 state, he performed similar to the other Jinchuriki. In the anime, his version 2 Cloak was able to put up a bit of a fight against Pain, but he was clearly at least a tier below him. The full Six Tails has some sort of corrosive breath and was temporarily held off by Six Gates Guy. I believe Six Gates Guy should be next to where I had Kakashi in the mid-Kage tier, and the Six Tails should likely be above that spot since I don't think Guy would be able to defeat it.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I heavily disagree with that. Guy and Kakashi are not mid-Kage. They're not Sonic tier. Like, they're definitely in the low Kage tier at that point. I'll say this, though. If you have guy using the gates, then it is questionable and arguable whether if he is in the Mikage, and that's okay. But Kakashi's not. And mind you, Kakashi's my favorite fucking character. He's not Mikage level. He's it is shown throughout the entirety of Shippuden. He's not fucking Sonic level. Like, there's even that one statement where like Sonata's like, what about Kakashi? He could be whatever, and then Jiraiya's like, he is not ready yet. Like, he's not, blah blah. And mind you, like, they know he has the intelligence part or whatever. So obviously the only thing that Jiraiya would say is clearly talking about power itself, right? And things like that or whatever. So like, there's that, and there's just all kinds of things, like all kinds of stuff that we see with Kakashi. The only thing that really had Kakashi even above the mid-Kage, where he was actually in the high Kage range, was his Kamui. You know what I mean? That's about it, But as for his, like, physical stats and what he's capable of with his Riker and things like that, he's not Sonic tier. He's just not. I'm sorry, but there's just no way. Like bro, you see War Kakashi, and he's still fighting against low Kage individuals, like, Zabuza, whatever, the 7-inch swordsman and shit, things like that, whatever, and so on and so forth. You know what I mean? Like, and that's when he's at full power, okay? So he's clearly still low Kage level. Like, he's a very, like, the peak of Jonin, but he's low Kage, He's not mid-Kage. Mid-Kage is literally the Sannin, okay? You know what I mean? And things like that. And, along with, like, certain other Kage individuals, right? If you want to go that far too, but and things like that, But I'm here with you. Just taking a look at this, I could go all day, every day with this, and what I disagree or agree with. But this is not a tier list video for Naruto. Maybe one day we can check out. Like, I don't know if I ever did react to his Naruto tier. Like, I know I did part 1. I remember that, right? And it was either agreements or disagreements. But I don't know if I did the Shippuden. I don't know. I could have. I don't know. But yeah. But I'll give one example. Like this right here. Like Raikage being at mid-Kage. Like what the. And then being below him. Like that's interesting. And I'm sorry. Being below all these people that he's like. This dude is beyond way faster than all these motherfuckers. Like that's crazy. This is the only one that actually makes sense. Five Summon Sasuke. Oh, actually no. That's Taka Sasuke. Oh hell no. Taka Sasuke is. Yeah, I'm sorry. No, this is rough. But anyways, this is not what I'm really trying to do here. We're mainly just focusing on the tail beast. So, but I'm very, very curious on like his whole thought process and scaling and basically just how he got to all this, right? This is pretty crazy. But it's interesting though. Very interesting.
The stress the Six Gates puts on him and his lack of progress against the Six Tails. Guy was also impressed by the destructive power of the tailed beast bombs that could erase mountains. So at the very least, his destructive power is below that. Fu during the filler tuning exams with her Jonin escorts was the first
I don't think any ninja has like BIJU destructive capacity, or AP to devour mountains and shit. Nobody was shown. Like the only people that were shown to change the landscape or have insane levels of power like that was Hashirama and Madara. You know what I mean? Or like Sonic level summonings like Genbunsawana and shit.
Arrive at the second exam location by a wide margin. Even ahead of Neji, Lee, and Tenten, who came in second. And easily defeated a giant scorpion that was beating Sakura, Ino, and Choji at the same time.
Well, fodder makes sense.
Sakura managed to one-shot one later. She also sensed Gaara's sand eye, which even her Jonin escorts didn't. She can shoot webs that she can use as a net, and create a cocoon to hold off her and Gaara's tailed beasts from being extracted.
That's pretty cool.
She can breathe out scaled powder that can blind her enemies, and can fly with the wings she can sprout on her back. In the anime, it was implied she was defeated by Kakuzu and Hidan.
Nice.
As an Edo, she was able to dodge Killer Bee, but she had her ocular jutsu helping her, and she would have been hit by Bee's follow-up move.
And I'll be real with you, because I believe she was the Seven Tails. They would have got fucking slammed if that bitch went into the full. So I already know what happened with that. Like, they basically fight, and then they get her blood somehow, and then that's how she's dealt with. You know what I mean? Because there is no way they're beating her full transformation. Like, I'm sorry, you saw how bad they struck with the Two Tails. You're gonna be like, imagine the Seven Tails, bro.
The linked Renegon vision. The Seven Tails is arguably the strongest BIJU after the 8 and 9 Tails due to its tail count, but it got slapped aside along with the 2, 3, 5, and 6 Tails by BIJU mode Naruto. 8 Tails helped a bit, but just 50% of the 9 Tails was enough to beat up the other 5-tailed beasts at once, and was able to counter their charged up combined beast bomb as well. Clearly, none of the other tailed beasts hold a candle to 9 Tails.
Oh, yeah.
Even at half strength.
Which proves the statement that 9 Tails said, like, the more tails you have, the more stronger,
All this information, I'm going to rank the tailed beasts in Jinchuriki in order of how strong I think they are. At the bottom would be Fu and Utakata.
Oh!
They showed limited attack power and don't have anything to prove they're above high Jonin tier. Gaara in full Shukaku mode while not using Playing Possum Jutsu didn't really do anything besides get his arm cut off by Gamabunta, but Gamabunta mentioned how solid he was and his sheer size should put him above the other two. Base Yukuto and Yagura would be next. Yagura was the Mizukage and could take on Jozu, who was at least high Jonin level. And Yukito is faster than Hidan, who could outduel Asuma and keep up with Kakashi. So she's at least peak high Jonin to low Kage tier.
Oh, so he's talking about the ninja
The
itself,
mindlessly
not the
rampaging
Tails.
Three Tails would be next, as its power is at least low Kage tier, being too much for Gurren, Kabuto, or Kakashi. But it having trouble with Gurren, being overpowered by base Naruto's combo attack with Gamakichi and Gamatatsu, and being easily defeated by Deidara, who I have in low Kage tier, limits it to that tier. One-tailed Roshi with his lava cloak and Han would be next, as they both hurt Kurama Cloak Naruto. And Han managed to tag him, though Naruto was focused on Roshi. They would likely be somewhere in the low Kage tier. Gaara at the beginning of Shippuden would also likely be in the low Kage tier since he lost to Deidara in a close fight. Up next would be all of the Jinchuriki in their version 2 states. They should be in the mid Kage tier since they could give Itachi, Pain, Kurama Cloak Naruto, full 8-tailed Killer Bee, War Art Kakashi, and Six Gates Guy trouble. They're definitely below most.
All I'm gonna say is like again, like it gets very ambiguous and contentious when you start talking about all the tail beats because they don't really have that many feats in like showings and screen time. But if you go off with what we at least have bare minimum, you know, and things like that, then you can come to somewhat of a conclusion of their scaling and so on and so forth. But you know, again, it's straightforward for the most part. But then there's certain points where it's like, you know what I mean. All I will say, I'm not going to go too crazy and like too judgmental on all this because, in all honesty, like I would have to just really, really do my homework and go over the material myself. But all I will say, at least to give more credit to the 4 and 5th tails, those two, like, you know, with the minutes on one shot, because at this time, I don't think that was out, so he couldn't obviously put that into consideration. Otherwise, he might have maybe changed his mind or thought, you know, a little bit further on it. But again, like they made Jiraiya, Minotaur, all those motherfuckers who had to retreat. You know what I mean? And they couldn't do anything. So, you know, there's that into consideration. But then again, you know, like we didn't really have all the context and it's very vague and blah, blah, you know, and so on and so forth. So, you know, there's only so far you can go with that. But if you just go objectively with what you saw, you could technically put that into consideration for, you know, scaling and things like that too, right? And at least this goes to show that those Jinchuriki can transform to their full transformation if needed, which is a big deal. It's crazy because that means they have access to a BIJU bomb and things like that, and so on and so forth. Like that's pretty fucking crazy. So you know, again, like the Jinchuriki and the BIJU are really, really interesting. To rank like the BIJU, I feel like is like the most easiest thing to do. But when it comes to Jinchuriki, that's where it's like really, really interesting. If I'm being honest with you. So, you know, again, I'm not going to go too crazy at what he's doing right now, but, if I had to just give my, you know, opinion on like what I would say, you know, like here's the funny part, like, yeah, like the Six Tails dude, he's ass. He's fucking ass. So like, he's definitely at the bottom. Fu, all you really get to see is like, you know, her in like in that one filler arc and then like in the war arc, right? But you can't really get anything off that because, you know, it's mainly just bullshit, right? And then again, it's Obito controlling her, so like we don't really know where the fuck she's at. So I guess you could just put her, you know, like I'll put her above the Bubbles dude, right? Bare minimum. But since she is the Seven Tails Jinchuriki, but you have that. And then you have I'll have the trying to think here. Oh yeah, the Two Tails bitch. We'll put her there. She'll be below actually no, she'll be above Fu because she just has more feats and showings of like being somewhat comparable to Kakuzu and Hit-On. So she's at least like, you know, a low Kage, a powerful Jonin and stuff. So you have that. And then you have Gaara, who would just be above that, right? And then like I'll have the Lava dude above Gaara, because I feel like lava is like a hard counter to sand. That'd be a big deal against Gaara. Like Gaara's kind of fucked. Like what is he? I'm sorry, but like he's just gonna go through all the sand. He's like a fucking, you know, a flaming Shidori basically at that point. That's basically how I see that going. But you know, it's interesting with that because we don't really have that much. But I'll say this: like he can fully transform into his BIJU as well. And if we go off like the tails and all that, you know, then Gaara's still fucked in the end. But yeah, I feel like the lava dude just have it over Gaara. That's just kind of what you're working with. You could have Gaara over because Gaara has way more screen time in feats and showings too. That's fine, but based upon the abilities and so on and so on, like you know, there's that. And then with the minutes of one shot, that was pretty impressive what he did. And then you have obviously the ball release dude. You know, you could do that. But even though he's kind of fucking featless, you know, so if anything, bro, I say like it'd be the ball release dude, then Gaara, and then the lava dude. That's what I would basically say, right? And then obviously you have like fucking, you know, Killer Bee, and then you have Cassium to Naruto, right? And there you go. Because I'm gonna be honest, if it's a full power Cassium Naruto, like not nerfed, but full power, and that motherfucker whips out a Rising Shuriken, he's beating the A-Tails, like, you know what I mean? Or beating B, like he just speed blitzing basically. So, but there's that too. But that's basically what like I would say for like ranking the Jinjuriki at least, you know. But again, don't hold me to that or Kano or nothing because this would require me to do a good amount of homework on because it's just a weird area. There's really not that much you can go off on.
Them, but the fact that they gave them trouble means
I feel like the most obvious answers is Naruto and B obviously being at the top when it comes to Jinjuriki, right? I feel like that's the most obvious though.
Too large of a difference. Probably not more than one tier. Next up would be Yukito releasing the two tails. It wasn't stated she was one of the Jinchuriki who had access to the full power of their tailed beast, so in this form she shouldn't be as strong as a full powered two tails, but she would still likely be above a normal version 2 state. She was able to overpower Kakuzu, who's in my low Kage tier, but ended up losing to him and Hidan together, and possibly only went down due to Hidan's jutsu. So I think her being in the mid Kage tier makes the most sense. The one tails at full power was clearly above Gamabunta, who should at least be low Kage tier. And while he was suppressed by Rasa, who I have at low Kage tier, Rasa's jutsu countered him and he had a whole village backing him. You could use that to try and argue Shukaku should only be low Kage tier, but how well Shukaku did against Madara, his ability to do tailed beast bombs, and the fact he should logically be above a tailed beast version 2 state should put him at least in mid Kage tier in my opinion.
Yeah, he's definitely above
B2
B2
state. Having Rasa above Shukaku.
As for mid Kage, I don't know about that, you know.
I would say Shukaku and all the other tailed beasts at full power fighting intelligently, I'm looking at you, Isobu, should be in my upper mid Kage tier to lower high Kage tier. This is further backed up by the Six Tails fighting Six Gates guy, who should at least be mid Kage tier. I actually think the lower high Kage tier probably makes the most sense, but things like the Three Tails going down so easily to Deidara, Shukaku getting suppressed by Rasa, and a seemingly almost full power Two Tails losing to Kakuzu and Hidan makes me question that. It's possible those tailed beasts could be weaker, while the tailed beasts like the 4 and 5 tails who managed to damage full 8 tailed Killer Bee and match Kurama Cloak Naruto in strength are just stronger, but I do think it has a lot to do with matchups. For example, the 3 tails was just swimming while Deidara was bombing him from above. While if the 7 tails who could fly was focused on Deidara, he would probably be screwed.
Yeah.
I do think any of the tailed beasts at full power using their
matchups are important. Very, very important. That goes with the whole thing where when people are discussing like, you know, Rock Lee versus Sasuke, like, and they try to be like, oh, but well, Sasuke beat Gaara, so therefore, you know, it's like, wait a minute, hold on. That's a matchup issue, though, because Sasuke was the perfect counter for Gaara, right? And he had enough speed to deal with Gaara, and then a fucking insane lightning god tier AP sword in his fucking hand, right? While Rock Lee was just inherently taijutsu based only, and his speed was unmatched. Like, nobody was as fast as Rock Lee at that point in time, but he just didn't have enough AP to get through Gaara's fucking durability and tank shit, you know? While Sasuke, he was nowhere near as fast as Lee, but he had the ninjutsu and the AP to get through, though, and he was just fast enough to get the job done. You know what I mean? So again, it's like a matchup thing, and people never understand that as a concept, and they just go through this whole crazy, you know, tooth fairy territory of why they think Sasuke above with the whole nine, but yeah, that is a thing in Naruto. It's important to put in consideration matchups, you know, so a W point from Weeaboo.
Power. But it's possible characters that are weaker power-wise can end up defeating them. At the very least, they should all be below the 3rd Raikage, since he stalemated the 8 Tails, who is above the other tailed beasts as confirmed by Kurama. If you want to know which tailed beast is the strongest besides the 8 and 9 tails, I think it's between 2 of them. If you believe more tails equals more power, then the 7 tails should be the strongest.
Yeah.
Plus it can fly, which is a big advantage.
Yeah, it's
If you
a
wanna
big
go by
advantage.
feats, I think the 4 tails Son Goku would be the strongest, since it did the best against Bee and Naruto. I do think the 1 through 7 tails are all supposed to be relative in strength to each other. For me, the biggest question is why the 3 tails was so dumb and weak before. Well, I think that's about all there is to talk about when it comes to the tailed beasts in Jinchuriki's power. If you want to know,
Honestly, it's not bad. It's not bad. It's pretty good for the most part, and whether like some disagreements here and there, sure, was it inherently like okay, like the best and like hands down perfect, whatever. I can't unfortunately really come to that conclusion because I would have to do research on myself for this. Cause this area is like really vague and there's a lot of it's very ambiguous. That's all I'm gonna say, man. I think he did do a good job with what he has, and especially with him not specializing in only Naruto and always doing a variety of fictional concepts and stuff. I think he did a fucking great job and tremendously shits on all the people that actually specialize in Naruto or only scale Naruto, right? Like that's the sad part is the fact that this dude tremendously did a way better job of the shit that I've seen out there when it comes to people that just only do Naruto, So again, shout out to Weeaboo Warrior for that. Did a great job there and so on and so on. As for like all the ninja, that's a whole other can of worms. But again, I don't really care for. I thought this video was just mainly with the tailed beast only. Like this, what he's showing right now, that's what I thought it basically was, right? Like the Jinchuriki in comparison, and then the tailed beast in comparison, not like comparing them to everybody else. So other than that, I'm not really care that much. Even though that was really where I had all the disagreements of how the tailed beast and Jinchuriki, compared to all the other ninja on the tier list, but either way, for like how he had it structured and things like that, I thought he did a good job. It was pretty good, that's basically what you're working with. So it is what it is. Now I will say this for what he has on screen. This I don't know about all this shit. So like this dude, he fought against Kasame, and that's a big fucking deal, dude. That's a big deal. You know what I mean? So, and even Kasame said he had a very hard time. So that's a big deal. While Kasame dog walked fucking Killer Bee, and shit like that. Now, Killer Bee would have won that fight if he was able to fully transform to the 8 tails, to be fair. But either way, Killer Bee's no joke in base and in V2 as well. He's very powerful, So the fact that, I don't know, I feel like he deserves a lot more credit. If anything, he'd be either mid Kage, and things like that. Technically, you could even argue high Kage because Kasame even fought against Tachi at a certain point. But either way, that's me with that. For him, he doesn't really have a lot. So honestly, he could be low Kage or Joning if I'm being real with you. With Gaara, that's good. He's definitely low Kage. That's actually very accurate. This bitch, low Kage because of Kage's even head on scaling and stuff. The 3 tails, that's fine as well. Loss of data and shit, low Kage makes sense. These dudes, honestly, that's good. Joning, I fuck with it. She should be here though. I'm sorry, but I'm be real with you. We shouldn't be doing any of the Rinnegan or Sharingan variants because that's just I guess technically it's okay because it is another form of the character, so sure. But so by that logic, that makes sense. For this to be above her, that makes sense. This is a stronger version of her. But either way, I would still consider her low Kage though too. So there's that. And as for these, honestly, that's good for the mid Kage thing. Honestly, I fuck with that because 6 tails performed way better than Jiraiya did it versus Pain. So honestly, that's good. You could maybe even put him in the low high Kage, really. But that's good. So 6 tails is good. This dude is also good because he was able to tag Itachi. That's pretty crazy. So there's that into consideration. If you think that's a big deal. So if anything, you could have this dude also in high Kage. To be able to be a threat to Pain or Itachi even at all remotely, that's a big fucking deal. And if anything, I think grants you in the high Kage territory. That's just me personally. So yeah, these two are no joke. Right, so you could really put them up there if anything, and there you go. As for her with the full transformation, the full BIJU, that makes sense. I agree with that. Definitely either mid Kage bare minimum, or potentially low high Kage. But that's good. Like she would probably, you know, I think that's pretty good. That's not bad at all. Would she like be stronger than the Sonic? I don't think so, but that is a good spot. So I'll save that. You know, but like overall, it's not bad. Like this is pretty good. You know, it really isn't. Now Shikaku, I think that's way too fucking high. Like I think that's way too high. I'm assuming that's based upon like the Madara stuff and whatnot, which is fine. But here's the issue with the Madara: like you can only gauge that so much, right? Because he's an interesting dude, bro. Like he likes to hold back or fuck around a lot and etc. So I would have to like revisit the context of that. But from my memory, it was mainly just Madara like testing out his body and he was getting hurt purposely. Like he didn't want to dodge and do all this stuff, whatever. He was literally fucking around. Like I remember him having the statement to where he was literally just like doing that on purpose and so on and so forth. So like I don't think that really all counts. Now what does count though for Shikaku is the Susanoo feat. When he tanks that does count. So like Shikaku's durability is fucking insane. That I do agree with, but as for everything else, I don't think that really matters. So like overall, I'd still have Shikaku at like low Kage. You know what I mean? At most, you could say mid Kage, right? But you know that's what you have with that. And then, you know, there you go. Now for this dude, I don't understand why. I'm assuming this is the Warrock version. I would still have him at low or mid. Like I don't think anything changes with that. You know. These are fine to be high Kage, and that's honestly that's fine. You know, it's not a big deal. They're either mid Kage or high Kage. It's really what you're working with. You don't really have a lot to go off with these dudes, unfortunately. You know, this is the only one we know for absolute fact is definitely high Kage Killer B, and then I don't know about God I Shinobi, but you know, but yeah, Ninetales is also high Kage too. So. But yeah, good stuff. Really good stuff. I enjoyed it. Definitely liked the video as well. Give the brother.
Know more about the 8 Tails, 9 Tails, Gaara, Killer B.
It's not letting me like the video. Interesting, but I'll like it when I can on the next episode of Dragon Ball Z because I don't know what the fuck's going on my computer. But either way, W video. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content. Subscribe if you guys love the channel and everything. Give me all love and support as well. It helps. Goes a long way. You know, and especially if you guys want more reactions like this for Naruto and things like that, because once I do get through my watch later list of everything that I have on there, I'm going to look at basically my YouTube channel and look at some things, and depending on the numbers and what everything I have and how everything's going, I'm going to make a decision whether or not if I'm going to be continuing to do reactions. I've been doing this for a good while, guys. You know, and in all honesty, I might even make a decision to even delete all my reaction videos and so on and so forth, depending on that as well. So, you know, at the end of the day, like I'm just putting that out there, guys, because no matter what, I'm going to be doing what the people want. That's basically what I'm getting at. And most importantly, it doesn't make sense for me to be killing myself and trying to waste all my time and doing stuff that you guys aren't really, you know, wanting, right? Or you like, but, you know, you don't really care that much for, right? You know? So that's basically what I'm getting at. So at the end of the day, you know, there's that to put in consideration, guys, and so on and so on. So again, like if you like these type of videos and reactions, hit the like button, subscribe, comment, the whole nine, whatever. And for all the people that always support, I obviously appreciate you and thank you. And in all honesty, for the people that have always been supportive and always been around, whether if it's liking, commenting, and obviously always been sub to the channel, maybe for you alone, I'll consider only doing Naruto reactions only, but it's probably not going to be as frequent as you would want, though, right? Because I'd rather be investing my time into continuing to post my gaming vids and also with making Naruto scaling content, right? You know, that's, if anything, if I'm going to be investing my time, I'd rather be doing it with that, you know, instead of just doing reactions and the whole nine and so on and so forth, right? You know, I can do reactions here and there at that point in time, but, you know, to do it like so much or like always have it as like a daily post or things like that, it's going to really boil down to you guys and the support that you guys are giving. So basically, you know, you give and you get is what I'm getting at, right, guys? So, and that's for anybody. You know, unfortunately, I have responsibilities, IRL, the whole nine, etc. And if I'm not getting any value from this, there's not really any point, right? What's the incentive? So, but anyways, but yeah, as always, guys, I'll catch you guys next one. Bye for now. Peace.